One of the biggest challenges for people trying to negotiate their way through an organization is being strategic. How can I move from the tactical day-to-day concerns to being a more strategic player and move up in the company? I can explain that. This is the fourth video in my series on scope, the perspective of your role in the organization. We're looking at scope through the scope chart that I introduced in the first video in this series. If you need a refresher or you missed that first video, you might want to start there. People often hear comments like, "You need to be more strategic," or "That's thinking way too tactically. You need to think strategically." This can be so frustrating. I mean, what is strategy? Seriously, what does that even mean? The scope chart can come to the rescue to help answer that. It's a great way to understand what it means to be strategic. And the way it can do that is by looking at the questions companies face and where they fit on the scope chart. On the scope chart, the who is very clear. It's so clear it's one of the prime axes. It's the organizational axis. This answers the "who is doing it" question. When is also very clear. It's the time axis. This answers the "when will it be done" question. But organizations face a lot of questions, so where do the other big questions come into play? How and what and why? Where are they on this chart? Glad you asked. The origin of the chart down at the bottom left is the home of the how questions. How do we actually do the work? How are we going to do that in this time? How can this team do that stuff? This is where the day-to-day, item-by-item work happens. This how zone is the home to subject matter experts, people who know exactly how to do precisely the things the company needs to have done. They're the people on the factory floor, the people heads down at their computer, writing code, designing widgets, creating spreadsheets. This how zone is the most tactical of areas. On the time dimension, the how zone is where you answer the when questions. We need to do this before we do that. We can't start on this without these things in place. On the organizational axis, the who questions are very tactical. They have the experts over there. We need to have those people to do this, and those other people do that, and so on. The people who lead in the how zone are people who excel at tactical thinking. They're the ones who answer, how do we do it? Who's going to do it? How long will it take? They get stuff done today with the team they have right now. They are the masters of the how zone. But the how zone, especially near the origin of this chart, aren't dealing with the what. That's the next zone, the what zone. This is the area where the questions are ones like, what are we building? On the time dimension, they're asking, what should we do next? On the organizational dimension, they're asking, what is possible given the people we have? The what zone is the home of the planners, the tacticians, the people who figure out the near-term course of the business. The what zone is where tactics begin to meet strategy. The leaders in the what zone need to manage the delicate balance of what can be done with what should be done. They're the ones to realize that if we get these teams over here doing this, that will fit in great with those people over there doing that. And if we time it right, it will all come together perfectly and be ahead of the competition. That is strategic thinking in the what zone. Yes, these are the people who decide the what, but like everything else in the scope chart, there's an interface with the how world. They have to overlap to a significant degree to understand if what they want to do is even possible. They rely on the how leaders to tell them what their teams can do and when that might be possible. With that information, they can begin to work their strategic soup into a plan for the company. The people in the what zone need to excel at leadership, at convincing people, because the focus of leaders in the what zone is not only on what needs to get done. They need to convince a lot of people in the how zone that what they want to do is worth doing. It's exciting or valuable or important. And they need to convince the people above them that their plans make sense for the company at large. This what zone is where people like team leaders move up to director roles. They start to stretch their strategic wings. Above the what zone is where the big question gets asked. Why? At the top of the organization, the why questions are everywhere. Why are we doing this? Why do our customers want this? Why is this different from our competitors? Why is our company the right one to do it? Why is this the right time? The people in the why zone are the dreamers, the idea people, the ones who can sell the idea to the world. Some of the people there are excellent doers, but most of them are busy answering why. Why this? Why us? Why now? And of course, when something goes wrong, they're the ones who get asked, why did this happen? The skills in this zone move far away from the day-to-day subject matter expertise and well into the realm of the possible, the future. For those up here, the entire world is strategic, and much of their work is sharing that vision, convincing others that it's a compelling future. At this level, the why zone interface with the what zone is what helps keep them grounded. The what people are telling them what of their vision can be done and when it can be realized. The what people might offer ideas about things that can be done, but they're often on the receiving end of the vision. They serve as the balance between the strategic of the why and the tactical of the how. Smart leaders up here not only look outward to establish the why, but they also look inward to get input on it, and most importantly, validate it. They need to make sure it resonates with the team, that the why is so clear, so compelling, that it will make all the hard work to get there worth it. That's also the reason the best leaders are constantly reaffirming the why for the team, because when you're deep in the what and the how, you can sometimes forget the why. This establishment of a clear vision, of a distinct and meaningful why, is so important that it will be the subject of an entire series of videos I'll do next. The last video in this series will preview that series on visions. Look for the Vision series coming soon for extensive detail on establishing and using a clear why. Scope plays an important role in understanding these key questions of how, what, and why. At the top, a wise CEO won't dive down into the weeds and tell the hows how to do their job. A CEO is unlikely to have the experience, or at least not current experience, to be useful. And their huge perspective also means they lack the detail to understand how best to do it. It takes strength of character for a CEO to recognize this. Many action-oriented and hands-on CEOs want to dive in to help, advise, critique, even micromanage deep into the how territory. That rarely ends well. I frequently use the scope chart as a way to help them appreciate their distance from the how problems and help them see how unconstructive their involvement in the how can be. At the middle, a smart manager often has perspective that might be useful in setting the why. A good senior leader can listen carefully to their input and take advice on the what can be done to make the why possible. There's no point in defining a why that can't be done. But the focus in the middle should be helping to clearly define the what to service the why. As such, the main role in the middle is to interface the how we're going to do this, working together on the what to service the why. Down near the origin, in the realm of the how, it's important to understand the why and believe in the why. There's that old saying, when you're up to your butt in alligators, it can be difficult to remind yourself that your original mission was to drain the swamp. A great why, a clean, clear vision can help people deep in the how zone get past a lot of problems. But down here, they often lack the perspective to help in setting the why. They don't have the deep understanding of the market, the outside competition, the funding, the capabilities of the company that the people at the top have. Let's be clear, this isn't a skills problem or an intelligence problem, it's almost entirely a perspective problem, and the scope chart makes that clear. The best leaders at the top want to understand any and all concerns about the why. They should listen, but they're unlikely to turn to people near the origin, the how experts, for help in setting the why. This is often frustrating for people at the bottom, but the scope chart can help make it clear why their perspective is insufficient to help in why setting. The scope chart can be useful to understand all 5 of the key organizational questions. The who and when are on the axes, and the how, what, and why are core parts of the scope of every role. Understanding those is important, and with the use of this chart is far easier. The key is to remember the essential questions at each level of scope. In the how zone, the key questions are, how are we going to do it? Who do we need to get it done? And when can we do it? Here, it's all tactical. The emphasis there is planning, and very little is strategic. In the what zone, the questions are, what do we need to do? Do we have the people necessary to do it? And can we do it when we need to do it? The what zone introduces the strategic perspective. It serves as the middle between pure strategic view above and the pure tactical view below. In the why zone, the questions are, why do customers need this? Why are we the right company to do it? And why is now the right time to do it? This is the land of pure strategic thinking. The scope chart clearly illustrates what the strategic view is, but what does that mean for you? If you want to be more strategic, if you want to move up on this chart, how do you do that? That's the next video. We'll discuss what all this means to you. How can you use the scope chart and your position in the organization to be more strategic? The kinds of things you need to be familiar with to live in a more strategic role. But that's the next time. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and click the bell so you won't miss each new video in this series. I'll see you in the next one. Be more strategic.